If you're watching us on YouTube, do
that back forward and protect and pass the ball very, very simply. He is brilliant. If you put leg.
I've just gotten my second jab. I'm fully vaccinated, which means, Danny, I can go for a lovely haircut and a shave very soon. 2 weeks time. That's little buffer we have before we can go visit people and do normal things. But the world of football is, I wouldn't say it's normal, because all of a sudden
it's never been normal, is it? It's absolutely bonkers.
It is. Bonkers is the word when you suddenly associate Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester City. In our neck of the woods, it's called haram, because you just don't do such things. It's like Paul Ince going to Liverpool. It's like Alan Smith from Leeds to Manchester United. It's unheard of, and bang, at the end of the day, he's back at United. It is the weirdest thing I've heard in a very long time in the world of football.
Huge surprise, I think, to everybody as well. And I think really anybody saw this coming. I'm not sure Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saw this coming by sort of his reaction. It was done very, very quickly. Incredible signing for Manchester United. Cristiano Ronaldo back at Man U. I mean, what a signing. Absolutely incredible. We know about his pedigree. We know that he's an absolute winner. What is he, 36-ish now? Can he have the same impact that Zlatan had on Manchester United? Without a doubt he can. But, not just talking about winning things and trophies and that type of thing. Obviously, Zlatan didn't win the Premier League, but he lifted everybody. The standards that he set on the pitch, on the training ground, that winning mentality. When you listen to the players that were around sort of Zlatan, everybody else had to up their game. And I think that'll be exactly the same with Ronaldo. I also think there's now huge pressure on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because now you've got Sancho, you've got Varane, you've got Pogba, you've got Harry Maguire in there, and now you've got Cristiano Ronaldo. There is no excuse for not winning something this season.
Two excuses: Fred and Scott McTominay. I'm just going to be honest. Let's be honest.
McTominay's injured, so that one's out the window.
And hopefully, I've been saying this. I'm gonna stick my neck out again. Van de Beek, play him there. Dalot can play that role as well. They are good players. Just give them an opportunity. But going back to Cristiano, did Sir Alex Ferguson save him from moving? From Juventus to City? Just hear me out. So he started off with a bad reputation as a cheat, as a diver at United, correct? Then he resurrected his career as this incredible, if not the greatest player in the world. Then all of a sudden, he's going to go from a United legend to a City legend. Did Sir Alex Ferguson call him, stop him, and save his name as being, give me a term, a pirate? I mean, not a pirate. You know what I'm going for, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure the City move was ever on the cards. I think maybe it was generated by agents, then sort of fed to the media, to try and maybe provoke Manchester United to get this done very, very quickly, to make it happen. Because, if there was a half a chance that it could go to United, half a chance to go to City, Manchester, I think we can't have that. We can't let him go to Manchester City. They're going to win everything. That's it, done and dusted. So I believe that maybe that was just drummed. I don't think he ever had any intentions of going to Manchester City.
But you mentioned
Manchester City. Yeah, but I'm not sure Manchester City were that interested in him either. We've seen that before. Manchester City have a definite ceiling on what they will pay. We saw it with Harry Maguire. We saw it with Alexis Sanchez. We've seen it with Harry Kane. It's like, well, this is what we're prepared to pay. A pound over that, we're not paying any more. Simple as that.
Is Cristiano a player that Pep would like to work with at this point in time? Is he good enough to be?
He's an outstanding player, but he's a little bit different, and he's not really he doesn't play the way that Manchester City want to play anymore. He's not a maverick. That's the wrong word, but he's the focal point, isn't he? Everything's about him. Where's he going to play for Manchester United? He's going to be the number 9. Basically, you go and play up front, and we will feed you. Simple as that. We don't expect you to run back too often. We don't expect you to put too much of a shift in. We just want you to get in the box and get goals. You are a goal machine. Go and score those goals. That's not really the ethos that Pep has, and he wants to build something and take people on. So I'm sure they'd have been interested in the fact that, he's an outstanding player. an incredible goal scorer. But again, does he really fit into the way that Manchester City, or especially Pep, wants to play? Possibly not. But I mean, let's go back to it. For United, incredible signing. You know, it's got everybody talking. It's got world football talking. No one really saw this coming. 2-year deal for Ronaldo. What an opportunity for Manchester United. But it's a lot of pressure there, and also on those other players in the dressing room. There's a lot of fanboy stuff been going on, you know, at the moment. You know, how are they going to react when he actually walks into that dressing room?
That's a good point. And the word was mercenary, so I just forgot English all of a sudden. Just hear me out. Just hear me out, all right? This is the scenario. Has this been a move orchestrated by Manchester City? Or if we're going to go for Cristiano, United are going to be forced to go in for Cristiano, which means now it opens up the door for them, for Harry Kane, or even Haaland for that fact, in a year's time, because their budget has been pumped into Cristiano. Or am I just looking too much into it?
No, I think, you know, United have been looking for a centre forward for some time, haven't they? I think, you know, Cavani, well, Cavani's younger, I think, than Ronaldo, which is a struggle. But, you know, they're two fantastic players, but they need something for the now. I think the Haaland deal, I think City will be very, very interested in Haaland next season round, when obviously that deal runs out, or not the deal runs out, the clause, the escape clause can be triggered. And then obviously he can get himself out of Dortmund relatively easy. The wages will be phenomenal, but we know that. So I think, you know, City, they've got Grealish, spent £100 million. They're prepared to wait. And if you have to wait another season for Haaland, I think City will do that. And that's probably always been in their thinking, because Chelsea would have been in for Haaland, but they've now got Lukaku. You know, and sadly, maybe for Harry Kane, you start to think, where will his move be next season? If he gets one at all, he might have to stay at Tottenham and sign another new deal, perhaps.
Have you been in a situation, or have you witnessed a situation where a player wanted to leave a club, couldn't force the move, then was forced to stay back at the club that he wanted to leave?
Similar, but I got my move in the end. When I was at Charlton. I mean, the amounts clearly are completely different. You know, the ability of the players is clearly different. The size of the clubs are completely different. But we'd had a season in the Premier League. There was 2 or 3 clubs that were interested in me. I think Glasgow Rangers at the time. This is 2000, 99, 2000. Leeds are interested. Aston Villa are interested. You know, all offering to sort of looking to maybe buy me. And I went into the chairman at Charlton, Richard Murray at Charlton, and said, "Look, you know, there's a big move on the table. I've just sort of squeezed into the international squad. I want to go." And they were like, "Well, no, we haven't got a replacement. We need money." I said, "Well, hypothetically, what would happen if I said I'm not going to play for this club anymore next season?" And the chairman said to me, "Well, look, but if we get £4 million, you can go." Now, bear in mind that the season before I'd only cost £250,000. So this was a huge increase on their investment. I'm thinking, £4 million? That's outrageous. You know, probably that £2 million would have been a fair price, you know, at that time. Now, that was still nearly 10 times what they paid for me. Asking for 20 plus times what they paid for me only like 14 months earlier was a little bit extreme. But that was it. You know, they said £4 million, and we'll talk to another club and we'll get a deal done. I think it ended up like £4.5 million, and I went to Leeds. But I had to sort of force that situation. I knew they wanted to sell deep down. They needed the money, and it was either myself or Mark Kinsella. So I was able to sort of cleverly sort of force that move. But there's been other times where, when I was at Norwich as a young player, put a transfer request in, wanted to leave, and they just said no. And you can, you know, because they could afford to, because it wasn't earning very good money, and they just let you rot in the reserves for 6 months. So it can be very, very frustrating. But obviously it did make me realise that after that, put a clause in your contract.
Oh, sorry, that was the end of it. I thought there was a part 2, but
no
good one.
Well, put a clause in your contract. Have a get-out clause. Don't rely on gentlemen's agreements, because they do not exist.
Well said. In football and in life, that's a myth. Yeah, like Messi's love for Barcelona. Okay, that's too much. But let's talk about Demarai Gray. I've been a fan of his when he was at Leicester. When you saw him play at Leicester, you knew he had something. You know, it just had to be brushed up, polished up a bit, and bang, it will happen. His move to Everton, first and foremost, the amount they paid for him, all right? And then all of a sudden, it's like a new player. He's driving forward, and that finish in that game was world class for me. I know we use the terms world class at times a bit too free, but that was world class for me, Danny.
Fantastic finish. But again, a player that clearly has got talent. We've seen that before. Probably just needed that season away to play regularly, week in, week out, to build his confidence, understand the game a little bit better. Excuse me. And that's what he's done. He's gone away, he's improved, he's worked hard at his game, he's got that consistency. He's been brought in by Rafa Benitez. And when you get bought by a club, you immediately feel loved. You feel like I'm really wanted here. They want me. I want to improve. I now want to go and show everybody what I can do. And that's what he's doing. So I think it's just progression. Sometimes it does. We have young players that have a lot of talent that maybe don't get enough opportunities to play regularly. And they get a little bit frustrated. They lose a little bit of confidence, and they have a dip in form. He's gone away he's gone out. He's played for a season. He's come back in. And now he looks like the player that we thought he was going to be maybe sort of 2 years ago.
So does that mean that Brendan Rodgers didn't rate him to fight for him to keep him at the club?
No, I think it's like when you look at players like Gnabry that was there. Tony Pulis sort of didn't rate him at West Brom. At that stage, then went away, went off to Bayern Munich and became sort of sensational. Sometimes players that they've got a lot of talent, they've got a lot of ability, but they're not quite ready to go into the first team week in, week out.
Diego Forlan.
Well, I mean, Kevin De Bruyne at Chelsea, Mo Salah, all these, are they that dissimilar? Clearly talented players, clearly got a lot of ability, but at that time couldn't force their way into the first teams regularly. So, you have to leave, take a step away, learn the game, improve, play week in, week out, and all of a sudden, bang, you've got a great player on your hands.
A great player could be, Richarlison, if he keeps going the way he's going. Not maybe world class, but he's good enough to be bought by some of the top teams in Europe. But there was this one incident during that game where it turned into a little bit of a wrestling situation between him and Calvert-Lewin for the ball to take the penalty. Now, as a man who's been in the dressing room in many a football club, don't you have set instructions given? All right, if it's a penalty, you take it. You are our designated penalty taker, like Dennis Irwin was for Manchester United.
Yeah, normally you do. It's like, if you're on the pitch, you're taking penalties. And maybe Richarlison thought, well, maybe he was the penalty taker. The Calvert-Lewin's on, and all of a sudden it's like, well, it's his penalty. Who's going to take it? They're both in there or thereabouts, aren't they? They both want to score. Simple as that. So we've seen it many times. That happened. I think we saw it with Pogba. We've seen it with Pogba before, haven't we? And then players miss. But I think good captaincy from Seamus Coleman. Came over and said, "No, look, this is what's happening. Step down. I'm the captain. This is what's agreed. We let Calvert-Lewin take it. Simple as that." And he scores. So then there's no argument. There's no problem about that. But yeah, I think Richarlison just wants to score, and you can't blame him for that. He's obviously, there's a lot of talk about him at the moment. That what if Mbappe leaves and does go to Madrid, or what might happen to him in a potential move. But I don't mind a little bit of fight. It's just got to make sure it doesn't go too far. But luckily Seamus Coleman stepped in.
It went too far, if I remember right, with Kamara at Fulham. Abubakar Kamara, hashtag AK47. He wanted that little penalty taken, and then he missed it. It was the biggest hoo-ha. But let's move on to something more devastating, and that's the Arsenal defense. Okay, let me just show you this little. No, it's the truth. Come on, the games over here are quite late at night. All right, so in order to study the game, we have to stay up. Now that's a 5-man defense, Danny, and this happened throughout the entire game. Yes, they were 10 men, but they kept finding gaps. Every time the ball was put in the box, Manchester City found gaps. Why so? If you look at it from there, can you just show it again, please? I would like to know what's wrong with this setup.
I can't quite see who it is, but it's on the far side.
I think it's Jack Grealish.
Just before that, come inside one sort of level with the penalty spot. When you look at the line of the defence, that's fine. But the next person in has stepped out and broken the line effectively. It's a wiggly line, isn't it? That line needs to be straight. Look at that dark line of grass. Everybody needs to be on that line. Everybody needs to be as one. So if someone does steal a lead and does get in front, they're offside. Simple as that. Because what you create there, you've got two W's almost. You create the ability for players to run in behind other players and still be onside. And that's the biggest problem. Back in the day, the Arsenal defence would have been marshalled. They'd have stood there in a perfectly straight line, all gone offside, and it would be given. Simple as that. But I watched Arsenal midweek play against West Brom under 16s effectively, and obviously demolished them. It was a West Brom rested nearly every single player. It doesn't matter. There's no point beating West Brom under 16s and then getting absolutely smashed against Manchester City. Arsenal are in big trouble at the moment. Okay,
just let's compare it to another 10-man team, Liverpool, Chelsea. Would you say there's a bit more martial? You can see the centre-backs are a bit more square. They're aware of the situation in and around them. So how can a team like Chelsea know what to do when they go down to 10 men as compared to Arsenal when they go down to 10 men?
Well, they haven't been coached well enough would be the answer to that. They don't have enough discipline. If you can just go back to that still, and I'll explain.
The Chelsea or the Arsenal? Okay.
Yeah, the Chelsea one. Look, you've got Rudiger. Is that Jorginho stepped back into that sort of? Thiago Silva, sorry, is there, and then Christensen. Those three are a perfect line. Aspilicueta's now coming back into the situation, round the back. Alonso is heading towards the ball. So look, if any Liverpool player goes a fraction too early, he's offside. The gaps between those players are almost identical. You're probably looking at 8 yards, between every single player. That's well drilled. The midfield three in front of that, is also well drilled. So where's the gaps? If you play into feet, players are tight. If someone tries and runs through the gap, you've only got to make 2 paces and you can block that gap. That's almost perfect defending, and it's a bit of a dying art and you have to work on it. And I'm not convinced that Mikel Arteta works on the defensive unit.
Okay, so you've got the likes of Pep Guardiola has come out and defended him like crazy. You've got all these other experts who come and say that he's the man. But you look at the contract situations that have gone on in the past year or two. Willian was given an extension. Now he's all of a sudden not required. You had Granit Xhaka who was hammered, and all of a sudden he's brought back into the squad. Is it Arteta or is it the top tier that is the problem right now? Because you're getting mixed signals. Ozil as well, just because he said something that was a bit political, he was off. To Turkey.
I think Mikel Arteta's out of his depth at the moment. Oof. You've got the Lacazette, Aubameyang situation, which doesn't seem to be getting sort of any better either. Obviously, players are losing 3 games, not scoring a goal in the league. They look woeful. They were out-muscled against Brentford, outplayed against Manchester City. It's not. They're not even losing in one particular way. They're losing in every way possible at the moment. You now go into an international break and you're probably bottom of the league. You come back out of that, you lose 2 more games, and I fear for his job because there will be a change. You cannot keep going on like that. You've got. Does he look like he's going to turn it around? When you go down to 10 men, you're 2-0 down, you go solid. You don't concede any more goals, and they got ripped apart. Admittedly, City can do that to many teams, even with 11 men. But Arsenal were woeful at 2-0 down before they got a man sent off. So
and 3 games in a row.
Excuse. Yeah, and what's changed in those 3 games? You get bullied out of the game, out-muscled. You get outplayed, and then you get outplayed again. That can't keep happening.
All right, Danny, thank you so much. It's been 20 minutes. Remember to catch all our talking points, the highlights at least, on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram account. Danny, I shall see you next week. Goodbye, Mikel Arteta.